We are just 2.5 weeks away from the first Democratic presidential debates of the 2020 cycle, hosted by MSNBC, NBC News, and Telemundo. Already, the Democratic primary has become a contest of bold policy ideas, and this month, the debate will be the first opportunity for candidates to try to make their ideas stand out from the wide field of candidates. But presidential contenders are not the only ones unveiling ambitious proposals for how to solve our most pressing problems. Yesterday, freshman Democratic Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib released a new plan to address poverty and inequality in America, which the Washington Post is calling the closest plan in Congress to universal basic income. According to the Post, Tlaib's plan would, quote, give direct cash to help those at the bottom of the income distribution, annually offering $3,000 to individuals and $6,000 to families in an attempt to reduce poverty in the United States and bolster the wages of the poor. The idea is similar to one proposed by Senator and presidential candidate Kamala Harris in October of last year, but unlike Harris's plan, Tlaib would not require poor Americans to be working in order to receive the subsidy. The plan is also similar to one proposed by tech entrepreneur and presidential candidate Andrew Yang that would give individuals $1,000 per month regardless of their income. That's universal basic income. However, Tlaib's plan would phase out for individuals earning more than $50,000 and for families earning more than $100,000. Joining me now to discuss this in greater detail, Democratic Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib from Michigan. She is a member of the Oversight and Financial Services Committees. Congresswoman, good to see you. Thank you for being with us again.
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about what this is. It is not universal basic income because you're phasing it out at some point. But, you know, the median family income in the United States is now about $59,000. Tell me why $6,000 for a family a year will make a meaningful difference.
It would make a tremendous difference. I mean, my district is the third poorest congressional district in the country. Majority of the children in my district are living in poverty. Many of the residents across the country, nearly half, are literally emergency away from, striking into poverty and not being able to take care of their basic needs, from food to health care to housing. And more of our families are, struggling. I think 1 out of 4 don't even have $400 in their savings account. And look, I've gone through bailout of the banks, bailout of corporations right here in the Metro Detroit area, and I've seen us trying to uplift them, these various corporations, and we have continued to leave our families behind, and this is a way to lift them up. And we know over and over again from studies from all across the nation that when we put money back in the pockets of regular American people, that it goes right back into our local economy. And to me, that is a win-win for our country, and we need to be doing more, again, for children that are living in poverty. I mean, we're talking about 9 million children that will be positively impacted by this plan, as well as 3 million families.
Yeah, 2 million Americans have no income at all. And you're right that the lower someone's income, the more any dollar they are given in assistance gets put in, because they don't have anywhere, they don't have any ability not to spend that money. They don't have the luxury of saying, I'm not going to spend the money that I just got from the government. However, in the Washington Post article, Leonard E. Berman, a tax expert at the Nonpartisan Tax Policy Center, said the plan could run into political hurdles and warned that it would make the poor less likely to seek employment. He says it'll discourage people from working who can work, and politically there's much more support for people who are trying to support themselves. Historically, this is even something Democrats have faced, that working people who support Democrats say, hold on, I'm working and you're giving somebody who's not working but able-bodied free money?
No, I don't know who can live on $3,000 a year or even $6,000 a year. That's impossible. This is about lifting up people and making sure that they're not pushed even more into poverty. Most of the people that is going to be impacted by this are disabled, they're caretakers, they're students. Many of them, again, are contributing in some sort of way to our society and to our neighborhoods. Again, this is a win-win when we put money back into the pockets of the American people, real people that are struggling every single day in our country. When people talk about political hurdles, I can tell you some of the most bold, transformative changes that we've seen in our country, from earned income tax credit. I mean, this is, to me, earned income tax credit on steroids. We have seen over and over, and this is the best anti-poverty program that we have right now in our country, and alongside with education. I think this Lift Plus Act is as close as we can get to making sure that we're lifting everyone, especially working families, especially those caretakers and those that are, living with disabilities and things that I think everyday Americans know, and every single person around the world, country right now, has someone in their family that this would help.
So I mean, I don't disagree with you, but I just have to point out, so many of your of other Democrats, including those running for president, have said increase the earned income tax credit. So you said it's like that on steroids, but the distinction is you're offering a benefit that doesn't call for work. The earned income tax credit, by definition, does.
You know, Ali, this is what the problem is. If we're not helping every single American, even those that are inclusive, the broader umbrella of including folks in the Lift Plus, even with zero income, is the fact that if we're not helping them now, guess what? We subsidize for taking care of them anyways at the end. So why not try to uplift everyone equally at the same time? It is, again, something that I know is going to fuel our local economy. I know is something that is going to be as close as we can to universal income, but it's going to be something that I know even those that are earning income, that they are going to be able to benefit from it in the local economy. And even my small businesses locally here in the 13th congressional district love this idea, because they know when we are helping everybody in the community and neighborhood, that's how we can be able to uplift everyone.
Congresswoman, I want to talk to you about a hearing on Tuesday that you participated in on white supremacy, and I want to start by playing a clip of something you said.
I've been in office for about 6 months. And when you get something like this attention, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and ragheads Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, I was totally excited and pleased when I heard about 49 Muslims were killed and many... Many more were wounded in New Zealand. This is a great start. Let's hope and pray that it continues here in the good old USA. The only good Muslim is a dead one. How is that enough? Not enough to fall under domestic terrorism if they're targeting solely based on my faith and others and saying that a good Muslim is a dead one, obviously directed to me. By the way, they copied in this threat to my office. They copied the U.S. Department of Justice, the President, Department of Homeland Security, and so forth. And we get so many of them, and I keep asking, what happens? What happens to these individuals? Are they, I'm being sincere. I'm not trying to, I'm really sincere. I'm a mother, so I want to go home to my 2 boys.
The only good Muslim is a dead one. What was the argument you were making there, that we do not take those kind of threats as seriously as we take others?
Absolutely. Department of Justice and the FBI have the tools right now to look at white supremacy and nationalism going on in our country right now as a global threat, as terrorism in itself. And I feel like we're not putting the resources, nor are we treating it equally as if we were treating somebody that was, immigrant, maybe somebody of different faith. I've seen it over and over again where we are unequally treating the same people with the same kind of agenda of pushing violence through some sort of form of hate towards somebody solely based on their faith and their ethnicity and their background. And I really was trying to make a point that alone in the 6 months that I've been in office, and these kinds of deadly threats, invoking violence solely based on my faith, is something that I truly believe the Department of Justice, FBI need to be working towards and addressing, because those are the same individuals that are probably going after my, Jewish neighbors, my LGBTQ neighbors, my African American, Latino neighbors. These are the same people pushing this different agenda that I think is very harmful and is a big threat in our country.
Congresswoman, good to speak to you again. Thank you for joining me on a Friday night. Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib.
Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on the button below for more from The Last Word and the rest of MSNBC.